Yo, what's up? This is Jay Dennis, and we're back with another Ranked and Reviewed. And today we're going to be kind of jumping genres a little bit. Still metal, but not new metal, not thrash metal, not golden age metalcore, but post-hardcore with a twist of new metal. Because the band we're talking about today, The Word Alive, they're kind of a blend of a few subgenres. You know, some people might say they're metalcore, some people might say they're post-hardcore because they were part of a different time after the golden age of metalcore. In terms of guitar playing and like different aspects that they have, I'd say they're a blend of post and metalcore. And I'm going to be reviewing their 6 studio albums from 2010 up until their latest release in 2020. I have listened to this band since 2010 and listened to them throughout most of the decade. So I'm kind of excited to do this video because I didn't anticipate doing any post-hardcore bands or bands that I listened to predominantly in the 2010s. I usually do bands from my childhood or even bands that were around before I was born. You know, be sure to check out my Megadeth and Slayer ranked and reviews. This is a whole playlist. But I'm going to be doing some bands that I listened to more during my college years and past graduating. So, Word Alive, they got 6 albums. They have actually released one every 2 years since 2010, so it's kind of nice to see that perfect pattern. I own 3 of their albums, so that's why I'm doing a video. I actually have ones that I can prop up. I didn't print out any papers for the other album covers. But I really enjoyed these guys. I have seen them live maybe 3 or 4 times. I even had them sign a little poster. I've met every member. And, you know, at the time of meeting them, they all seem like really nice guys. I met Luke Holland twice. And I've always been impressed by their live shows. I think Telly is one of the absolute best live singers I've seen. I've seen, I don't know, probably somewhere between 40 to 50 different live bands throughout my life. And Telly's definitely in the top 10. He's solid. He does the screaming and the singing very well. He has the frontman thing down. I think, what are their names? Zach and Tony are solid guitar players. Really, really fun to listen to. And then Luke Holland, I think I've met him once or twice too. He seemed like a pretty chill dude. I liked him. And I don't know a whole lot about their on-again, off-again bass player. So, anyway, without further ado, from 6 to 1, let's review their albums. They've experimented a little bit over the years, and I think they've done it well. And damn it, they've been super consistent. And the spread is an 8.4 out of 10 to an 8.7. So there's a 3-way tie in here, but I'm going to go through the 6 albums, let you know how I rank them. This is my opinion, so be sure to leave yours down in the comment. What are your favorite albums and everything? And then I'm going to finish off with my top 10 favorite tracks. So I own 3 of them, so I won't have it on the screen for all of them. But anyway, at the number 6 spot, we have an album I don't own. Their first release, Deceiver. I was surprised this one was going to be down here, but also they've been really good over the years, so the fact that if they've gotten better since their first release, that makes perfect sense. So I gave Deceiver an 8.4 out of 10. Again, I think these are The Word Alive with Memphis May Fire. Those are like my favorite bands from that era, from that genre, the Warped Tour, post-hardcore, breakdowns, risecore, even though Word Alive was on Fearless Records, I think. Why did I bring all that up? Oh yeah, so they're pretty much my favorite band in that genre. So that's why even their worst album got an 8.4 out of 10. Deceiver opens on a solid note. You know, you got a couple of iconic Word Alive tracks, you know, Hands of Anubis, that guitar solo, man, just the outro, the intro, just opening with that intense layered scream. Like, this album does great with that. I just think they got better. So Deceiver, in my opinion, is probably their most generic album. It's definitely a snapshot of what was going on in 2010 with the breakdowns, the drop C, with the synthesizers, very Devil Wears Prada, except a different sound a little bit. One of my favorite songs is on this album, though, you know, Epiphany. I've always loved that song. I've always loved that chorus, the build up, the pre-choruses, the bridge. So Epiphany is definitely the best song on the album, in my opinion. I know the Wretched was like a classic back then, especially like as a live song. I think the Wretched's probably their worst song though. Not just on this album, but just in their entire discography. I'm not a big fan of it. I think the chorus is kind of corny, but the Wretched's still a solid song though. So I like. There's not a single Word Alive song that I hate or even dislike. So just wanted to put that out there. I think the Wretched's kind of overrated, but it picks back up with Considerate Mutual. 2012, of course, is a classic track. It's just really, really crunchy, really tight, robotic sounding guitars chugging throughout the choruses, but great verses. Very iconic chorus. Seems like I use the word iconic a lot. And then such a great live song too. So beyond that though, out of 10 songs, I think this is their shortest album. And let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them are memorable. The other 4 are just kind of not filler, but just not at the same level. A lot of quadruplets on this album. There's a lot of guitar leads. It's a pretty solid blend of the heavy and melodic. Probably could use a little bit more heavy though. But like I said, it's not as developed, and it's somewhat unique compared to where we were in that snapshot of time. It's their happiest sounding album. This was before they dropped down to fucking A sharp and then G sharp. Oof. All right, so that's the number 6 spot. Their first release, Deceiver. Still a solid album. It's just I think they got better. Next up, we got a 3-way tie, but I knew how to rank them. Number 5 spot I'm giving to their sophomore album, Life Cycles, which is probably their coolest album cover. I got this when it came out. Entirety was like a massive single that I enjoyed listening to, along with like Chelsea Grin's Lilith. Those 2 singles came out together in the summer of 2012. So I got a lot of nostalgia and a lot of, even though 2012 was a little bit of a hectic year, a little topsy-turvy, summer was still pretty solid though. Life Cycles was a pretty good soundtrack to that summer. You know, Dragon's Spell is such a great opening track. It's so fucking brutal live, like all the spins and body banging the guitarist would do on stage. So it's a little bit more of a refined album, a little bit more consistent sounding than the Deceiver. They introduced the lower tunings, the drop A sharp tuning. But the problem with Life Cycles is it's front loaded. Up until track 6, basically the front half are all the best tracks. But to its credit though, from Evolution to Belong, all those songs kind of, even though they're all memorable in their own way, they all kind of just blended together, even though they kept switching back and forth between drop C song, drop A sharp song, because like Evolution, Hidden Lakes, Ambitionary. But this album does get better at the end. Room 126, that guitar solo, and Astral Plane, probably one of the best closing tracks is Astral Plane. I've always loved that song. So Life Cycles gets a little stale on the second half up until the very end, and it opens up with its best tracks, Dragon Spell, Wishmaster, and Entirety. The way they utilize the synths and the breakdowns on this album are just so catchy, and it's mixed well too. And then of course the closing track, Astral Plane, is one of my favorites also. So that's number 5 spot. Their sophomore release, Life Cycles from 2012. At the number 4 spot, still kind of a tie, but I'm giving a slight edge to their most recent album, Mania, which got better after a couple of listens. Every listen, the album just kind of grew on me a little bit more. This is definitely their softest album, and I'm actually relieved that it didn't get the bottom spot. I'm tired of putting bands' most recent work towards the bottom because their glory days were in the past, or they went for something different. They didn't execute it as well as their primary sound. No, I think everything that the Word of Life have experimented with, they've done well. Telly's got a very versatile voice that fits the core genres, and then of course fits like more hard rock, alternative stuff. Now this isn't a radio rock album, but it's predominantly clean vocals, but when he does occasionally inject screaming in there, it fits perfectly. There's still some guitar solos in a couple of songs, but it's just this album is more about the hooks. It's more about the actual lyrics and songwriting, and not about being technical, not about being loaded, which that definitely has its place. But Monomania is just a very consistent album from start to finish. My personal favorites are Numb Love, Greatest Almost. The closing track is awesome. Death is only the end of, I forgot the rest of it. And then No Way Out. So in the bridge to the opening track, Monomania, that single is pretty solid too. So 12 tracks, very consistent. It's not as heavy, but it's a very well written album, and I think Telly's voice sounds great on it. And sonically, it sounds very pleasing. So it doesn't matter if they simplified it a bit and scaled back on breakdowns or screaming. I think they nailed this album, and that's why I gave it the number 4 spot over Life Cycles. The number 4 spot, the number 3 spot, which ends our three-way tie, mercifully, is their 2016 release, Dark Matter. Now, I know a lot of people probably say this is their best album. I know that when it came out, they were confident that this would probably be their best album, but this is their most inconsistent album. But the good news is the highs are high. Like if this is the flow of the album. Like every other song is great and every other song is good. This opens, in my opinion, with their weakest opening track, Dreamer. I just don't think it set the tone for the album very well. The single Trapped, of course, is a classic. This isn't the first album they introduced it in, but drop G sharp tuning on here just fucking worked, and they injected a little bit of gent in a few songs, like Made This Way or Dark Matter or Trapped. It sounds fantastic. But like I was saying, every other track just doesn't match the intensity that the prior track brought to it. So, but fortunately, the lows aren't low enough to drag this album down, because the highs are fucking. I think half of my top 10, or four of the songs on my top 10 are from this album. You've got Trapped, you've got Sellout, that fucking Under Oath homage, Made This Way, Branded. Branded's probably my favorite The Word Alive song. Just that alternative sounding bridge, and that just the intro just kind of reminds me of my childhood for some reason. But yeah, so it's got Branded, probably their best song, and then Dark Matter is a just beautifully heavy, slow, but intense song. And then Oxy is a pretty solid closer too. So if I had to say anything about this album, it sounds like Deceiver and their third album, Real, fucked and made Dark Matter. Isn't this channel charming? Because it's got kind of the intense, heavy notes and kind of computerish sounding mixing of Deceiver, and then the maturity, yet the heaviness of Real also. So I know more people probably hold this album in higher regard. I think it's their third best album, mostly because every other song is just their best tracks. But unfortunately, if just songs like Insane or Suffocating, or I think this song's overrated, Grunge. It's got a cool name because we love grunge, yeah, Alice in Chains, but it's just not a great Word Alive song. It's good, but it's just not great. So if any of those songs were just a smidge better, this would probably be their best album. So that's number 3 spot, Dark Matter. Number 2 spot is their 2018 release, Violent Noise. Just like Monomania, this album is packed with hooks and memorable songs, memorable choruses, lyrics that just grab you. It's a mostly consistent album too. Like Monomania, it's got mostly solid tracks on here. My favorite songs off this album are Why Am I Like This, of course. Just that beautiful chorus, that great lead guitar work. Stare at the Sun is just the fucking heaviest drop C song. The heaviness of Stare at the Sun, it sounds like a roided out Deceiver track. It reminds me of Epiphany or Hounds of Anubis, but it's more refined, it's more polished, and Danny Warsnip's feature on that is excellent. Real Life, I love that song. I love that digital sound that they do so well, and then My Enemy, super heavy song, solid chorus, but there's only two weakish tracks on this album, and it's Lost in the Dark and Run Away. And Lonely is it's a good enough closing track, but like Red Clouds, I feel like if the vocal performance on the chorus had been a little better, this could have been one of their best songs. I Fucked Up, War Evermore, I Don't Mind, all great songs. So this is just a very consistent album. I think it was on the heels of them trying to get their shit together, dealing with drug problems and stuff. So this violent noise really is a reflection of a band trying to heal. And sometimes that produces the best music. So that's why Violent Noise probably sits comfortably at the number 2 spot. When it came out, I listened to it. My wife and I listened to it on the way down to our anniversary cruise. We drove 8 hours down to Long Beach to cruise. So I got good memories to this album. But yeah, just the singles and the hooks. Why am I like this? And then Real Life, again, songs like that. Just memorable songs. This is kind of the Word Alive, really showcasing all of their different sides pretty concisely on an album. But not as well as the number 1 album, which is Real, which to me is the most absolute real Word Alive album. Now, who the fuck am I to tell the Word Alive how they're real or not? That's just my perception as a fan. I think hearing what they've done all these years and seeing what they've been through just as a spectator, as a fan, I feel like this is just their most mature and well-written, concise, perfect mix of all the Word Alive sounds there is. Or if I just say it this way, maybe it doesn't have Monomania or Violent Noise sounds because this was before that, but I still think certain aspects of this album kind of previewed that they were kind of heading in that direction whilst maintaining some of the absolute heaviest tracks and some of the classic sounds all on here. So it wasn't a sophomore success, it was a third album treasure or third album triumph, whatever. Again, Branded's on Dark Matter. My other favorite Word Alive song of all time, Your Mirage, is on this album. But we were just talking about how, Monomania or Violent Noise are super consistent. I think this is their most consistent album. Only one song got below an 8.5 out of 10, and that was Terminal. But the rest of the songs were all 8.6 and higher. My personal favorites are Lighthouse. I love the key that it's in. It makes me think of my childhood. And, I think it's a pretty uplifting song. Your Mirage, that heavy-ass opening, the electronics, it's one of their best songs. And then to Struggle and Claw My Way Out, To Struggle and Claw My Way, very solid track there. Collapsing has got to be, along with Astral Plane, their best closing track. It's great when it's kind of mellow, but then it gets heavy at the end and it just builds up. I saw them tour this album and it sounds fucking incredible live. Glass Castle or the Circle Pit was awesome. I just think they did a great job with the electronics, some of the vocal hooks, and just the dynamics of everything working together in songs like Fortune Teller, which have a very memorable dun 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 dun, just that electronic hook with a memorable chorus, and then same thing with 94th Street or what I really liked about this album though was they of course play some 2012 sounding stuff, 2012 from The Deceiver songs like Broken Circuit or Play the Victim, but just a little bit more refined. But then they get a little bit more alternative with songs like Never Forget, again Lighthouse maybe, but Runaway, or not Runaway, the Runway. Why would you write two songs that almost sound the same, Telly? Song titles, that is. But yeah, they just really checked off all the boxes of all the different sounds they had done over the years. My only complaint about this album, the only reason why this album's not a 9 out of 10 is because of the mixing. This is not their hardest album to listen to, but I just think even Life Cycles had more oomph to it with regard to the mixing, the bass, the low end. Dark Matter is probably their absolute best sounding album with sonicality, mixing, mastering, everything like that. And yeah, like I said earlier, Monomania, they're 6 albums deep. Monomania is actually probably on paper their best sounding album. But for like the heavier metal, chunkier stuff, Dark Matter and Life Cycles did it better. Real, the high end was a little too much. It was a very trebly sounding album, kind of like Falling in Reverse is it's the album that came out after Fashionably Late. Just Like You, Just Like Something. Anyway, that's my only beef with this album is musically, vocally, and everything. This is top tier Word Alive, but just with regards to mixing and mastering and the EQ on this album, it's just a little clunky. It's a little crispy for my taste, but it's their best album in my opinion. It's the most consistent from start to finish. Play the Victim is a great opening track. Lighthouse, Your Mirage, Terminal. Not Terminal, sorry. The Runway, Struggling Claw, and then Collapsing. Just so many great songs on here. So that's my number one pick is Real. So quickly recap. Deceiver, Life Cycles, Monomania, Dark Matter, Violent Noise, Real, in that order. My top 10 Word Alive tracks, mostly in no particular order except for my top 2. Why Am I Like This from Violent Noise, Numb Love from Monomania, Epiphany from Deceiver, Dragon Spell from Life Cycles, Sellout from Dark Matter, Entirety from Life Cycles, Dark Matter from Dark Matter, Trapped from Dark Matter, and then Your Mirage from Real, and Branded from Dark Matter. Like I said, like half of my top 10 list was from Dark Matter. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this. Again, definitely subscribe. Check out the Ranked and Reviewed playlist. I do a lot of other bands. I'm going to be doing maybe a few more post-hardcore bands like Memphis May Fire, maybe Devil Wears Prada or something like that. We'll see. It's just not a particular subgenre that I'm the most excited about revisiting. I think that one was kind of not as timeless as, like, say, your metalcore or your new metal, my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see. And yeah, leave a comment. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What are your favorite songs? Have you met them before? And how would you rank yours differently? So, thanks for watching.